of go off on my own. We talk a little, we tangent a little, we kind of go on. We have fun. This is the episode I kind of wanted to culminate everything from the prior episodes, as it were. Basically, culminate everything into where we were going, how we got there, and how we did, and where we go from here. So the first thing is, let's kind of rehash where this show kind of started, where it got to. It started with me having some spare time and wanted to talk about some stuff, but I was losing track of what Metafix needed. For those of you who are familiar with our content, Metafix is, of course, the show where I sit in front of a shelf and try to wax intellectual about things in regards to the game of Heroclix that may not necessarily be the direct answers, as it were. Soft skills, I like to call them. Where hard skills is get the figure, put the figure on the table, put the figure in the place it needs to be, use the other figure to get the figure where it needs to be, roll the dice and watch what happens. Those are the hard skills. Those are the rules of Heroclix and doing your job as it is as a Heroclix player. But the soft skills are those things, those mental game elements that a lot of players just don't spend much time thinking about. This is something that was a major weakness of mine in the game of Magic the Gathering. And I feel like I've taken a lot of what I learned from most of that and found applications or alternative measures in the game of Heroclix. So that's how Metafix was born. This show was kind of born out of me running out of ideas for that. I talked about so many soft skills. It got to the point where I was actually talking about direct strategy, which was not the goal of that show. So what I decided to do is, instead of doing that, we came here and I talked about what my plans were for upcoming tournaments. A little bit of fun, a little bit of measure, whatever. I did what I could. The whole birth of this channel was watching my ups and downs of decision making as it came to upcoming WKOs and then eventually Heroclix Worlds. I believe Rock Canada Cup was a part of this too. But Rock Canada Cup, I kind of pooped the bed, as it were. I did not do well. But that's because I was really trying to bounce off the wall, as it were. So bear with me. I lack adult beverage, and I got a very icy glass. And I'm sure that clanging of the ice against glass is not the finest of noises or hearing me drink. But when you're solo on a show, if you're not really there and recording it, if I was recording this and then editing after the fact, that noise would be gone. I do this live. Sorry. So we get to where the kind of crux of where I was going. So we came to the WKOs in Toronto. There was a series of them I did okay at. I know I bombed out of the sealed in Secret Wars Battle World in Whitby. But we'll get into that when we talk about Worlds and what I prepared myself for and how I prepared myself after that butt kicking. I got second to the WKO in Constructed. There are factors that I could say played a major role in it, one of which was attendance. I think there was between 12 and 16 players there. Not a big attendance, no. So that played a factor. What else played a factor? A brand new team that a lot of people didn't see coming. I probably could have got first place if I would have played it a little better. The team was a bit of a surprise to me too. I just wanted an excuse to play Shirtless Kirk. And some ID cards. I wanted to actually do well. So basically I took the Turtles team and made it a little bit easier to kill, but turned things around for myself on it. And that was a lot of musing on here. I was also looking for an excuse to lose Lockjaw. So I took that to Worlds. And we'll just put it out there. The team didn't fare well in Constructed for me. A lot of factors in it. When I went into the third round at 1-1, my opponent was PJ Bolin playing what I think is one of the two best teams in the current metagame. Now that's not to take away from Tyler Spees. Tyler Spees won with his Wales team. for a number of reasons. One of which is it was very well practiced with that team. He knew all the ins and outs of it, and he was very well versed in the way that that team moves and functions. And the thing is, when you have a team like that, and you have a team like the Gotham City team, he has more time practicing as a Gotham City team than players using the Gotham City team thought to put into the Wales team. So Tyler Speed's practice paid off big time dividends even for Worlds, and I do have to get him on this show sometime soon. That's a thing we're gonna do. And then I did get top 4 in Team Worlds with the best record on the team, which was good news. So I did make a bit of a rebound from my previous plays in Secret Wars Battle World Sealed. But Team Sealed is a vastly different monster than Standard Sealed. And that's the mathematics we'll talk about in a bit too. So long and short of it is, where is this show going to go? Well, today we're going to kind of wrap up, where we got to, what we might plan to do next year, and explain how the format of the show is going to change a little bit before we get into everything. I feel like I'm going to be musing Heroclix for a little bit while kind of chilling out and playing a video game. I think I'm kind of going to merge my two hobbies, basically, is the way I'm looking at it. So we'll chit chat, wax intellectual. I'll have the chat open, talk Heroclix. I'll probably open up the call-in portion of the show, as that's something we discussed, and we'll see how that rolls, and we'll call it the Into the Mind of Madness casual mode. So what I think I plan to do on a portion of that is I will look at games I'm playing, and I'm not playing the hardcorest of the hardcore. I'm probably going to be playing more casual, side-scrolling indie fare, just because those are games I can talk while I'm playing, and stuff like that. And I really love Metroidvania games. You can kind of be stuck bouncing around doing nothing, while at the same time doing everything, if you catch my meaning. So I think that's going to be a little bit of fun for us. But I will also link certain, like when I'm playing a game and I see a design thing, we'll pause and talk about, how game design in digital space will either be similar or different in some way to that of game design in the tabletop space, because game design is game. Anyway, that's kind of my goal for the show, if you guys want to continue watching. So let's talk about my adventure. So put a lot of stress on this prior to going to PAX Unplugged. Top 16 teams, 48 players get qualified into Worlds. Now, I walk into Worlds with no qualifications prior. I was 1 or 2 spaces below where I needed to be in Canadian Nationals. Now, the unfortunate fact about that is Canadian Nationals was supposed to be given Worlds qualifiers similar to the way U.S. Nationals worked, and a copy-paste error kind of messed me up on that one. But I will not let that bother me. So I walk into this, and I go into this, team sealed is important. And we've stressed it since the onset of Secret Wars Battle World. This set was the set that was used for Team Worlds. And because Team Worlds was a form of qualifier for Singles Worlds as well, we wanted to understand how building was going to work in the set. So we did a lot of content. We did a lot of practice boxes of Team Sealed for the set. And we got as much practice as we could playing games with the lower end rarities of this set. It is part of why I've started musing about the Everyman format. Because between Sealed and the Everyman format, you'll get a little bit of more appreciation of stuff on the higher end of the spectrum, while at the same time improving your game in the limited format of Sealed. You will recognize strengths on the lower end spectrum that you haven't realized before. One of which is, if you sit there playing Everyman for a little while, playing with nothing but commons, and you open up a couple packs, and you see this uncommon, it's like, my God, that's better than all the commons I've ever seen in my life. You have an appreciation and a respect and a level of understanding on why that is way more powerful than anything else you could possibly put on the board. So The practice that I put in with building and opening these packs paid off dividends. It didn't get us the championship. Got us real close. We were 2 rounds away. So 1 round away from the finals. And we can't complain about that. I gotta give Steve and Tom a lot of credit. They were part of the team and got up there. And I had an unprecedented 6-1. It was 4 rounds of Swiss, top 16, top 8, top 4. Yeah, and I lost 1 game out of all of that. So 6-1 record out of that. And part of that was recognizing the quality, recognizing what we needed on each team, and the fact that Secret Wars Battle World, unlike Avengers Defenders War, had a lot of leftover that gave you a lot of team building options. And I think that the higher the point value you got, the more flexibility you got to build. I know, it's weird, right? I liked Avengers Defenders War in individual 2-pack sealed because I was playing with mostly everything anyway. So it's just a matter of how well could I play with everything I pulled. Whereas when you go into 6-pack sealed for Team Worlds, you guys are you're stuck with everything. Just maybe 5 or 6 figures that I put in the extras bin. This one, a lot of figures. Tom's team had 2 figures, Steve's team had 4 figures, and I had 3 figures. So I think in total we played with 9 figures between the 3 teams. So our performance paid off, and I was able to make it into singles, but I ended up bombing out in singles. There were a number of factors in my bombing out. One of which was losing. Lost a couple games. Okay. Another part of it, though, is the demoralization that comes from an unfortunately tight scheduled singles tournament. And that being, there was 114 players that had to play 4 rounds of Swiss, and a good portion of the 3-1s were not in the top 16 cut because they only cut 16. Now, I'm going to recognize why this choice was made. The first of which is WizKids set up a schedule ahead of time. They had to adhere to the schedule, but in order to adhere to the schedule while not pissing off everybody at PAX, they had to truncate everything. Sucked. Big time suck. It sucked for us as players because we travel all this way and we got to play 4 rounds. And if you take 1 loss, you might not even come close to being able to qualify for the top 16. That is brutal. That's brutal as a player. It sucks for the people making the decisions on this because they had to make this decision based on the schedule that they had. And unfortunately, they couldn't change their Sunday schedule because everything was in writing. And that is a major factor in this. So, does it suck? Yes. Was everybody a little miffed? Of course. Does the pleasure of hindsight and patience on my part just give me the recognition to go, there's reasons for this. There's reasons for everything. They may not be great reasons, and we're allowed to be a little upset because we spent all this travel time. But we do have to have a level of understanding when it comes to this kind of organization, right? I don't think they anticipated, from the get-go, I was talking to Kenny later on, and I said they had to rearrange all the table numbers for Team Worlds because they did not anticipate 61 teams worth of players showing up in Team Worlds. Oops. And just give you a number, 61 times 3, it's 183. And that, I believe, it's between 61 and 64 teams. I'm not sure, 62 teams maybe. I think there was 32 tables, which would quantify 64 teams. So yeah, 64 times 3A, that's 192 players. That's a lot of players in Heroclix. And teams, because of the way that team execution kind of weighs out as far as point scoring and placement, you kind of understand or you get an understanding of why 4 rounds for that worked a lot better than 4 rounds singles, because your entire team's record. So if your team had 1 bad round and went 0-3, but then the next couple rounds you take 1 loss after that, you're in the 8-4 bracket, which puts you in a very good position to be in the top 16. Our team was 10-2, and we ended up first in Swiss. I think we were the only team with that kind of record. So we got really, like, we were in the safety place, but 8-4 was a safe place too. 7-5 was just below the marker. So, I mean, if you took a single bad round, you still had the ability to get it out. Now, if you had one consistent loss in each thing, you're still in that 8-4, right? If you have one bad round and win them all, okay, even better. It's when you take 2 round losses that you're kind of out of it for sure. And that is a going 2-2 or going 1-2 in 2 rounds. Or sorry, 1-2 and then losing one game later on. Like that, you could still go 2-2. Like you could go 1-2 in one round, 1-2 in another round, and then go 3-0 the next 2 rounds, and you're in. Like you could have a 2-2 team record. So as you can if you start to like understand how the team record kind of made your placement, you understand why people took 4 rounds of Swiss better for 61 teams in that case versus 114 players. And there's enough people getting angry about this that I don't need to pigpile on that. This is growing pains. This is a first World Championships at this venue, at this convention. And they will need to put some work into it. We as players are going to need to understand that maybe Sunday is not our travel day anymore, necessarily. Or maybe push it to Sunday night. Move it to Monday morning. We as players are going to have to adapt to a potentially new schedule going into next year's PAX Unplugged, because the way I see it is the first day kind of looks the same, where it's Team Worlds and then a World Single Last Chance qualifier with the potential of a Swiss rounds only Saturday, followed by a single elimination only Sunday. Now, what that means is you can run your accurate number of rounds on the Saturday, 5 to 7, depending on how many players show up, versus a 5-hour, because if they cut the top 32, it's 32, 16, 8, 4, last 2, 5 rounds. Or they could cut the 16 again, and they have 4 rounds to do on the Sunday. You're out. You're out by like 2 o'clock in the afternoon if everything works out to an hour. It should in single elimination. Single elimination is the easy part of things. And a game is done, you know you're going to be what's going to be happening. You just wait on the rest of the rounds to finish, then you start your next game. Simple, easy peasy. The single elimination would go faster, and they could still run the battle royales. So I feel like next year that could be the schedule we would look at. But that's all speculation. I don't make that decision. I'm not privy to this decision. Sometimes I talk to people who are in charge of said decision, and I have to, or sometimes they watch my show when they listen. Sometimes. But at the same time, while my idea might be a good idea, sometimes I'm ignored. And we have to understand that. Sometimes a reasonable mind, there's unreasonable circumstances that a reasonable solution just doesn't exist. So. All right. So, feedback on myself. I do this every year, Worlds. I have now gone to Heroclix World Championships 3 years in a row. And every time I've been there, I have had one good year. And it was, if we look at how I played, year 1 I went with an off-meta next year's meta team. Second year I played on meta, and I got top 32. First year, I went 1-2 in a 3-round Swiss. There was really no room for error on that one. It was brutal. Year 3, this is my 3rd year, I was off meta. Like, I think I should have played a little bit more of an aggressive version of my team. But hindsight's 20/20 as always. What do I do from here? Well, next year, my question is, do I play on meta, or do I continue to be the stubborn jackass that I am? It will depend on the way the metagame looks. Because here's the problem. I can function in an enclosed, tight, limited meta, playing what everybody else is playing. I can function in that. I can function in a wide open meta. But oftentimes when it's a wide open meta, I make the incorrect choice as far as power level is concerned. if you catch my meaning. So if we go back to explain myself, round 1 I was up against a Shredder team. I should have probably been playing Shredders. I have notoriously bad dice rolls. As my opponent was also frustrated by my dice rolls as much as I was, kind of attested to. You know what? I'm starting to realize that I no longer have to be angry at my dice. Everybody else is just as pissed as I am. So, cool. So I do have to find a way to, 1, limit my dice rolls, or 2, maximize my potential and limit how easily I die. So for future bigger games, I'm going to have to take a little bit more time to do my research. I was this year very underpracticed. Last year I was slightly overpracticed. It depends on which world championship. If we're talking about main worlds, I was fairly well practiced with the idea of picking powers because I ended up playing with 2. Like, if you go back last year, I played Jakeem Thunder and a 75-point Goblin King back when he had Power Cosmic at 75 points. That's like 4 powers being picked in a turn, which was a lot. It was a lot. And I ended up playing it with a couple ID cards, and I believe I had I might be wrong on this one. I feel like I had a Supreme Intelligence on there somewhere. I might be wrong. I feel like I'm wrong. I don't know. There was definitely a tank because I think I played against 0 teams without a tank. It was a basic requirement that year. Everybody played the tank. It was prior to its nerfing of, hey, it doesn't deal penetrating damage anymore. And then Rock World Cup that year, I had played the Ultron Devil Dinosaur Bomb, I believe. Yeah. Which was fun. That was a lot of fun. That was a hella fun team. I had Carnages to go off of. So those I mean, I think that team had 2 Carnages and whatever. Yep, I did. Thank you, Emily. That's right. I used Supreme Intelligence to get stealth on my Jakeem Thunder because I didn't want to pick stealth. Me and Emily, we had a qualifying game that was absolutely insane. It came down to, I think it was a Jakimov at one point, but that game was a roller coaster of emotions. And by roller coaster, I mean I was down here, like in the dirt for the first 2-3 turns of the game because everything went wrong for me. My Collins were missing. My 5 damage kill her. My plan to kill her. What's his name? The dude Felix Faust failed. It was like, I got one. I'm gonna kill him in 1 shot. Dirt. He's okay. He's alive. I think I ended up doing more damage to her Felix Faust with my Ameridroid than anything else on my team that turn. It was brutal. It was a rough game. It was a bad game. No, she ended up killing my Ameridroid, actually. She just murked half my team with the yellow. And, it was... Everything about that game was just so not good. She rolled yellow, I think, like 2 or 3 turns in a row. It was... and I spent a lot of turns just like regenerating, and I just lost so much. That's what it was. The Ameridroid was a big factor in my team. I remember that now. Yeah. So, in the long and the short of it is, I kind of have to readdress maybe staying on meta again. I don't like doing it. I do like kind of homebrewing, as it were. I do like coming up with my own ideas and rolling with them. I do like really off-the-wall stuff, and I do like sometimes just picking a keyword and rolling with it. I had a monster team a little while ago we all heard about that I played at Canadian Nationals, and then I also won a WKO with later. It was really a lot of fun to play, and it teed off of that 75-point Goblin King again. If I can get a chance to play a 75-point Goblin King, I will. I love him on the level of Lockjaw as a 75-point support character. In fact, I'm starting to wonder now if they both share a keyword, because if they do, I don't think they do. I'm pretty sure they don't, because I believe it's Monster Ruler for HC Realms. Get you. Oh man, I'm gonna turn ad block on you in a second, man. You gotta stop this. You know what I'm talking about. So Lockjaw, good boy, who's a good boy, such a good boy. Animal Cosmic. So Animal Cosmic. Let's just look at that. King. Monster Ruler. They don't share anyway. Darn. Oh, that would be so fun. That would be so bad. Make me a bad person. Anyway, I'm thinking of revisiting the monster team depending on how rotation goes. I feel like it survives rotation, because I think the way I'm seeing it, the what if Elseworlds are where the line gets drawn. And I'm not sure which side of the line those sets are going to find themselves. I feel like Avengers Defenders War is going to be gone, but Wonder Woman will stay. And Wonder Woman On, like the Wonder Woman mini set, may be the oldest legal set, with What If and Elseworlds kind of trailing behind it. Because, like, there's the old adage of the two worlds mindset, but at the same time, I feel like Elseworlds and What If are kind of attached to the hip, so I think if one goes, the other goes. And Elseworlds, like, just missed Worlds that last year, so it depends. It does depend. So I feel like we're on a weird place with all of those sets. Anyway, so I don't know where my monster team will fit under that, because What If goes, Goblin King goes. Anyway, I'm way off kilter here. Way off. There's the beaten path, and this is me. So let's look at my year and reflect. It's been an up and down year, and that up and down is reflected based on how frequently I've been playing during my downs, and then how frequently I've been playing on my ups. So, it's kind of weird how things go. Hey, happy little Heroclix. He's in the chat and he says, could see them cutting to Thor just for new rules. Every time I say they could do that, they don't. Like, I think it was Civil War OP was like, well, I figure Civil War will be gone just so that everything's got the new cards now. Wrong. But I do see where your mind is going on that one. I don't disagree with you. I would like to see that happen, but I doubt that will happen because Thor is an August set. I feel like there's going to be a month cutoff going into the future, and I think we're going to just see rotation happen at the same time, and I feel like it should. I feel like rotation should stay where it is based around U.S. Nationals. We'll just call it that. We'll call U.S. Nationals like the culmination of the last season, of the last set of Modern. The most bloated Modern is going to be, whereas Worlds will be everything this year defined in Modern. If kind of catch my drift. With the Rock Cup being that place in the middle that says, hey, this tournament's happening. We're going to get a taste of what we might see or what we got to start thinking about for Worlds, while at the same time a set or two could still find its way in there. But I could also be wrong, and they might just push rotation to November, which would be ridiculous. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I do like the timeline-based one, though. Anyway, so the adage that I preach frequently on this channel, practice making your team better, has very well reflected on my performance as well. I mean, Sealed has had a bit of a play in it too, and Sealed has been a little bit more volatile, I think, this year more than any. Because if we look at the sets that have been released in 2018, X-Men was a very volatile Sealed. I actually played one WKO and ended up going 2-2 because the first two games I just scored a couple points or wanted to, like, game one I want to roll off. Game two I killed one thing and then time was called, and both of us knew it was going to happen. And the thing is, when both players kind of know, if I present this opportunity, this game is over, you don't present that opportunity. You know what I mean? You play a patient game and you try to play a lot of turns where nothing happens, which is its own version of running the clock. You see, there is a tournament legal way to run the clock, and that is to have a lot of turns where not much happens. You can move, you move a couple figures forward, pass, but you keep them out of reach of your opponent. Like you read the reach on your opponent and you keep out of that reach, and then you stay even further out of that reach and you pass. But you don't take long turns. I'm not saying you're taking long turns. I'm saying you're taking a lot of actions where your opponent can't capitalize on it. And this is how you're running the clock in a legal Heroclix way. Your opponent might find themselves frustrated and overreach, and that's where you get your win because your opponent played the frustrated game. If your opponent is smart and doesn't do that, then bingo, you're now both playing to your best game, and you have to kind of capitalize on that. Both me and my opponent were doing it. We didn't take long turns. We didn't take anything like that. Anyway, so then we went into the next 2 rounds, and I got my butt kicked because X-Men sealed is volatile. It's super volatile. So volatile. Like I was 2-0 with 45 points or something like that going into the 3rd round, and it was just like, why am I here? What is going on here? This makes no sense. Anyway. So we go next to Avengers Infinity. Whew. Yeah, you guys are probably with me on that one. I don't even think were there WKOs played sealed in this set? I want to say yes, but I also want to say I didn't do well with them. I'm gonna have to go back in my history of personal history and be like, how did I do in that one? Batman the Animated Series had no WKOs that I played in. And Secret Wars Battle World, I had 1 bad WKO. So this year, in the culmination, there was some February Battle Royale or WKOs that I believe I played that used Harley Quinn instead of X-Men, or either some late in the year last year that used Harley Quinn. And I loved Harley Quinn because Harley Quinn loved me. I had 3 top 8 appearances, 2 of which that I won. So Harley Quinn was very gentle with me, which is weird given who is in charge of that set. I'm trying to look at Avengers Infinity and see if anything caught me as like, oh yeah, I played a sealed in this and this is why I lost. But no, I played a lot of sealed of the set. I just didn't play. I ended up winning a Power Woman, but I won Power Woman with a constructed WKO. The sealed WKO would have been yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Happy Heroclix. It would have been AI if it was that, I believe. Because it happened around provincials or provincial/states for The Rock. So maybe The Rock still has some of that stuff on their website. We'll see. States provincials was July. Okay, so yeah, it would have been July. It would have been Batman. No, it would have been just before Batman the Animated Series. No, just after. Yes. Batman the Animated Series. So Avengers AI might have actually gotten skipped for May. Oh no, I was nowhere to be. I was dead to the world in May. I was very busy at work in May. That's what it was. And even more so as the year went by, through a lot of the middle of the year, I was very busy at work, and that's why I didn't get a lot of Heroclix. There we go. We figured it out. So, and then we go back to how I was playing in Constructed. And at Nationals, I went 3-2 with my monster team. I ended up winning the WKO the week after with that. That Ninja Turtles team, there's maybe 5 or 6 tournaments that I played at a competitive level. On a lower than competitive level, there's even less. Honestly, I have played next to no Heroclix this year in comparison to what I should be playing, and that's a reflection on how I did this year. Most of my practice was in building team sealed for Secret Wars Battle World, and a lot of that was done over email. It's like, hey guys, here's what we got in the packs. Come up with some ideas. Now we come up with some ideas, and then we wouldn't email each other, but I would come up with ideas still, and then so long and the short of it is, practice what you preach. Get some practice in there. Get some games in there. One thing I've been looking at, and I have looked at and decided it wouldn't be the help that I want it to be, is the Roll20. This is what people have been using to play online Heroclix. And I have a visualization problem. And that is, I'm having a hard time linking, because Roll20 is very rudimentary, sort of, like the way I've looked at it and the way I see it, and I might be looking at it wrong, but it's a lot of cobbled together graphics on screen that just aren't feeling it for me. So I don't feel like I will play some games on Roll20, but I won't look at it as though I can use it as practice myself. There's a tactile level to Heroclix that my brain needs here in order to let me function, as it were. It's part of why I have to play physical games with other players. I've tried streaming games live with players from our Patreon, and they just didn't go well for me because I'm trying to move their figures while at the same time trying to figure out what's going on with my life and everything. It's not good for me. And I can't understand it because I have played digital forms of Magic the Gathering and done okay with that. But I feel like there's a more linearity to it than there is with Heroclix. And Heroclix, you live and die by the dice as well. I don't know. I have no problem with Roll20 as a system that exists. I fully support people using it. And I fully support the players that can get a lot of practice. And those players are already becoming significantly better quality player than I could possibly be, because of where I live versus a lot of the players that play the game. My availability of transportation in comparison to players who are capable of getting out to me versus me getting out to them. So all of these are form factors this year that I look to fix going into 2019. I will attempt in every way, shape, or form to do this. So I'm sorry, I got something showed up on the Facebook post that I posted for this, so I'm going to take a look at that in a second. Actually, I'm going to look at this right now because I have the computer sounds off, and I can safely do this with sorry. Here we go. Okay, so first thing we're going to address is Risey Lee. Who is your favorite Heroclix? I like them all. I love them all so much. But if I was to choose one, it's the one I've gotten the most success with, and it's the 75-point Goblin King. Notice how I said specifically the 75.1. I'm not going to play the 275.1. I don't play that way. But I do like the flexibility of a smaller point character using it as a support power who could also potentially bring it, as it were, when needed in the late game. So, yeah, Goblin King is definitely a way up there favorite character for Green Goblin in general. Like, they've really impressed me with Green Goblins and made me really like them whenever they get that chance. I got a comment in the Facebook here. Idea: a major cigarette company used to use proofs of purchases that added up the prize that you could choose from. People would dig through garbages or grab old packs. So why not do a similar thing with boosters? I know you guys aren't whiz kids, but you could promote this idea. They tried that. There was a while ago, around the time that Mech Warrior was still a thing, back when WizKids was just before they were bought by Topps. You would buy a box and there'd be these points on them. And everyone's like, what's going on with the points? And WizKids would be like, just you wait. And then they got bought by Topps. It's like, hey, we were going to do a thing where you could cash in your points for prizes, and that was going to be cool, but we got rid of that. Another thing that they did, which I thought was really cool, and I really wish they could do, was what we used to call the loser prize. We called it that. WizKids didn't call it that. It was like the Player Appreciation Award or something like that. Where what would happen is, let's say you go to Heroclix play. We used to, and I'm not even kidding. I used to have 7 to 8 venues within driving or busing distance from where I lived that played Heroclix. This is how much this game has shrunk, because I have one venue that I got to travel 2 hours by bus to get to, or a half hour by car if a friend is willing to give me a ride. So that many venues used to exist, and I used to play a lot of Heroclix, but I used to lose a lot in Heroclix. Like, so you got to imagine when you have 7 venues you can play in a week. I literally had this, like, Monday through Sunday I could play Heroclix in a tournament, and Monday through Sunday I would lose. So when people are talking about I'm losing in Heroclix a lot, you don't understand losing Heroclix, I don't think. When you're doing it 7 days a week, between 3 and 2 games per tournament. Like, so what would happen is over a 3-month period of time, if you didn't win a Heroclix tournament, they would send you a prize, and these prizes were exclusive to this system. In fact, I was one of the first players that I knew of to get one of these, and it was the Alex O'Hearn limited edition Ultimate Rhino. Alex O'Hearn being like, what they used to do is an LE was generally just the figure from the set with the real name and different stats. So I'm gonna see if I can't find this figure on HC Realm very quickly. I believe Alex O'Hearn. Here we go. From Critical Mass. That's what the set was. Yeah, brace yourself. These stats are not gonna be good. He was 111 points. He was 8 clicks of health with an average defense ranging from 14 to 12. I opened this guy. This guy came in my mailbox, by the way. Like, this is how far above and beyond they used to go in this game. This guy showed up in my mailbox, and I was like, why did I get a figure? And then I emailed WizKids. It's like, why did I get this figure? And that's when it was like, oh, yeah, we have this program now where if you don't win a Heroclix tournament, including getting Fellowship, which was something I wasn't getting either because there's a lot of new players, or kids are often getting Fellowship in a lot of these cases, they would send you an extra thing. And Alex O'Hearn was only winnable or obtainable via this method, which was so cool. I think that's something they should revisit. Because I am getting a lot of players kind of getting in contact with me and saying, I'm losing a lot in Heroclix and it's really demoralizing. And it's demoralizing. Because how do you accept this where it's like, I play this game constantly, I just can't pull out a win? And after a while, yeah, I can see people being like, what do I do? How do I do this? And I have no good answer for teaching somebody that you got to lose. You really got to take some losses for a long period of time. And when I say a long period of time, I don't even I don't remember my first local tournament win. Nope, I do remember. The set was Armor Wars. I remember now. And Armor Wars was a set where I looked at that and was it Armor Wars? No, that wasn't even the first one I won. I don't even remember the set. I don't even remember what the set legal set was, but it was definitely a pre-card era tournament. I'll say that. And I feel like I had won with a team what I lovingly called the Green Lantern Tank. That's what it was. Because I used to have to buy my LEs like a sucker, and all LE figures used to range between like $30 and $50. That's how hard these things were to obtain. Because in every tournament, there would be 2 LEs. There would be a Fellowship prize, which was different from the prize. And there was levels to things. Sometimes, if you got Fellowship, the guy who won would be like, I want that more. I'm just trying to remember what the first LE I ever won was. And I want to say it was... It's really hard. I don't remember, because it was a long time ago. It was really long ago. it wasn't Indie. It was a Cosmic Justice? Maybe it was a Cosmic Justice one. It was not a Cosmic Justice one. I almost want to say that my first LE I obtained via winning a tournament. Wasn't until Critical Mass itself either. It was Rupert, which was the Mole Man LE. Nothing special. 85 points. Got 2 clicks of leadership. Mastermind, stealth, 6 range with 3 targets with incapacitating was really all it was about. And I had won. This is the one that I had won with my Green Lantern tank, because there was a Green Lantern. I think it was the LE. I'm just gonna check from Cosmic Justice. That was a mail away, get it from a magazine sort of thing. It wasn't very high in defense. It was 15 defense, but it was one of the only characters that had the Green Lantern team ability. Because, and the reason this was important is that I needed to carry 8 figures with this guy, right? So, hear me out here. He also had, no, you know what? I need to find out when Trick Shot came out. It was Mutant Mayhem. Mutant Mayhem was the set that was active when I won this tournament. So it's not even Critical Mass. Mutant Mayhem was the set. But I feel like Rupert was one of them. I don't know why. Critical, it was Mutant Mayhem. No, it was the Alex Summers. That's what it was. It was Alex Summers, because I was really excited because I thought he compared on the level of the Havoc from the same set. The Havoc's miles better than this guy. But all the Havocs in Mutant Mayhem were disgusting, because I think the veteran was like 45 points with 4 damage and 10 attack. So, anyway, so where I was going with this is, it was a Green Lantern tank. This is like the first tournament I'd ever won. I would use Trick Shot on that Green Lantern because he had Ranged Combat Expert, and that would allow you to use to take a shot at a distance. Now, the problem is you couldn't use Ranged Combat Expert with that shot, which sucked. But what I did was I surrounded him with a bunch of guys with the Hydra team ability and enhancement, and just blew guys out of the water for like 5 damage at a time. It was pretty cool. I liked it. And I had purchased the Electra LE from I believe it was Clobbering Time. It was the LE of a hand ninja. And I want to tell you that this, maybe it was Explosion. Yeah, it was Explosion. Electra. Now, I want you to look at this and try to understand where we were coming from in this game. So, this is the Electra LE. So, an LE by default was unique. It was 19 points with the Hydra team ability, 4 clicks of stealth, 8 attack on the first 2 clicks, 7, like, it not great stats here, but what is this? 3 damage on the first 2 clicks, followed by 2 damage and 1 damage? With an 8 range? Now, this is before keywords were even a thing, so those keywords underneath, those were post introduction to keyword errata in. So, like, they're not even a factor in the discussion of this character. It is a 19-point Hydra team ability, 8 range dude with 3 damage and 8 attack. Now, the 8 attack, of course, with other Hydra team ability guys, is easy to deal with. Now, back then, Hydra team ability and PD team ability increased attack value as opposed to subtracting defense value. So you'd be able to get like a perplex off on the attack and still be good. And, you know, this character actually existed minutes before Rule of 3 was the thing. This character saw almost as much play for a period of time as Jane Foster did. It was a 19-point character who could break invulnerable. That was one of the things we looked at back then. So yeah, we had fun back then. It was a really weird game. It was the Wild West of Heroclix. And yeah, so do a little bit of reminiscing as I bring myself back into focus and say, next year, it will be a year of focused play, a little bit more practice, hopefully, one way or another, and hope to do better. And as I said, this show will become, in the new year, a more conversational show where I open the chat and I sit here and play a video game and talk to you guys about Heroclix. And then every so often chime in with my little tangents where I'll see something in a video game and say, hey, think about this in Heroclix terms. This is the thing that happened. We'll explain it in game design terms and just, try to create level heads. But for those of you who've been watching Into the Mind of Madness this year, thank you guys very much for indulging me in my little vanity project. Thanks for help whenever I was caught on a team. Anybody who watched and had their input in the chat, I appreciate that at all times. I appreciate, some of the conversation we had while part of this show was just building up the initial idea that became Every Man for Everyone. That was a lot of fun too. So we've had a lot of fun in the show, and we'll just call this the end of the season for now. We'll go into the new year and see what's up, and kind of develop our game again. Readdress how we're going to build teams and discuss how teams are going to work, and we're going to go in a little bit more detail. I think we're going to start pulling up maps in Excel sheets or maps in some way, shape, or form on the screen so we can start counting grids, counting spaces, and just get a better understanding of how our teams function on maps that are going to be available. So it's going to a new year. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll see you guys on the flip side as we re-enter the mind of madness, and we readdress the craziness that makes me me. In the meantime, thanks to our sponsors over at MajesticCCG.com. Thanks to our patrons at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. Okay, I'm going to actually address this one before I actually go out. Sean DeZobel wants to know, I know you love Luke Cage. How did you feel about the show and the cancel? I feel like we can all expect all of the Marvel shows to be gone on Netflix by the end of their next seasons. I feel like Jessica Jones has one more season. Punisher has one more season. Daredevil's already gone. And the reason for this is that Disney's already announced that it's going to start its own streaming service. And I think all of those are going to be put there. But I do also believe that they will not be using those character names for the show. I feel as though Heroes for Hire will become a show. Alias, a.k.a. Jessica Jones, will probably become a show. The War Journal will probably be the Punisher's show. And The Man Without Fear will become Daredevil. And I think we can all count on that kind of creativeness being used by Disney and Marvel as they put these shows under a new idea. So I'm not giving up I'm not giving up on Luke Cage, but I do feel as though I'm sad to see it go off on Netflix, but I'm hoping Disney's streaming service does come to Canada. If not, I'll see you again on Netflix in a bit, because they'll want it in Canada somehow. And if the current internet provider monopolies continue as they are with Bell and Rogers, I can see Netflix being the back door to that, as Netflix in Canada is how we get our Teen Titans TV show, which I'm not hyped to watch at all. But I'll give it a try anyway, because some people say, hey, it's better than it looked. It looked pretty bad. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for diving in there with me. Thank you very much for watching the show as it was. And we'll see you guys in later dives into the mind.